Freaks and weirdos of the Detroit Art District on Record Store Day, or her two, still hurring. I walked to a new record store. Well, I guess really I drove, but then I started walking. It was called Third Man Records. It's really a chain owned by a millionaire, Detroit rock legend Jack White. The first store opened in Nashville, Tennessee, which I went to in the summer of grade 10. He fills his stores with all sorts of trinkets and memorabilia from his bands, let it be the White Stripes, Dead Weather, Raccoon Tours, or even his solo band. Any memorabilia, really. I missed the opening of the Detroit location, registering for college, so I figured going there on the first record store day, which was Record Store Day 2016, would be a good substitute for missing the opening. After all, this would be the first record store day for that location, so it's kind of like the opening. As I was taking my equipment to the to do some urban camping in a city notorious for gang violence, poverty, theft, and generally appearing more apocalyptic than the movie RoboCop, who was set in a cleaner than the Legends of Detroit. It was actually a wonderfully warm and sunny day. Uh, it was the kind of day when you can wear a flannel shirt and just lay in the grass and daydream. I see the storefront lit up like an eccentric Nikola Tesla obsessed man's fever dream of music and passion. Fire station windows and all wood paneling, calling out to all those who dare enter. Then I fell for a girl. Not quite like a dove, but close. She must have been 5'3", real small doll. Looked about 13 from most angles, but then again, when you're me, you know people that look like they're 10 and they're 18. So, who can even tell anymore? She wore a flannel shirt, plaid, with blue and white, with a touch of purple and red. Short brown hair, and was just barely seen under a hat that appeared as an animated rabbit character that got the back of his mind. All he could think is, oh hell, I've just got over the last girl, and here we are going through this dance again. I put my chair down and carefully observed my surroundings. To my right is the Jolly Pumpkin, Wayne State University, and what I can only presume the residence building of Wayne State, shining with the sun like some sort of monument to wealth in a poverty-stricken city where the population of those living under the poverty line is double the state average, and that's Michigan. The Jolly Pumpkin is a restaurant that has a hipster vibe. It is exposed concrete and air duct ceiling, all recycled hardwood walls and flooring. The walls are painted with urban and folk art that might be found at a rave. In front of me are a combination of art studios, a single store, and lofts that presumably artists and students rent out. The lofts are much like the Jolly Pumpkin in style: exposed ceilings, hardwood floors, plaster walls with giant glass windows facing the street for aesthetic purposes. To my left is where her tent is. Perhaps I should go over to talk to her and hit it off. If only I had the guts to do it. Hungry, I decide I should get some food, seeing as it is about dinner time. I don't really want to go and leave and lose a parking spot. And I can watch my tent and chair from the Jolly Pumpkin, which I'm right outside of. The place reeks with the rotting corpse of a complex known as hipsters. The chairs and tables are refurnished wood. It plays the most hipster obscure music. One example I remember is Holland 1945 by Neutral Milk Hotel, or as you may know it, the song that Stephen Colbert Report, I believe, ended on. It was one of those talk shows. I don't really watch them. It's incredibly loud in the Jolly Pumpkin. I never got why places like this need to be so loud that stifles a lost art known as conversation. I go to order and I see that the pizza, and I say, "This is what I want. This is it." I must clarify where I come from, small town Ontario, Canada. We must take pride in our pizza and hairdressing, as we have like 50 hairdressers and 50 pizza places in a town with less than 200,000 people. You can go to. I read the menu. It's handwritten on chalkboard. It's all very strange and unusual. Ultimate chicken sandwich, short rib sandwich, ultimate PBJ, Korean ribeye pizza. If there is one thing I enjoy about the beaten horse that is the hipster complex, it's the food. Whatever city you go to, you can find some extravagant food. Like there's this one place in Detroit, Green Horse Stables, that does sliders, and you get like catfish sliders or duck sliders, and it's actually all really really good. There's a lot of good food places in Detroit. Just one small plates. You get some really extravagant things there, and it's all very good. I have to enjoy that. Anyways, the waiter behind the counter asked me, "It's too far, too loud." "Pardon," I ask her. She once again responds, "I still don't have an idea." I lean in closer. "Sorry, it's a little loud in my hearing shot." But I didn't lie. My hearing's good enough for the Navy. "I know. What would you like to eat, sir?" Oh man, we're breaking out the "sir," are we? Making it more formal than it has to be. This is absolutely one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to fast food restaurants. And I work at McDonald's after this. I got a job at McDonald's. And, I really don't like how to refer to people as sir. I'd rather just be like, but I realize you don't know their name, and that's the proper thing to do. It's just a little nuance that gets me. So, anyways, oh man, I say, we're breaking. Sorry. I obviously have to automatically respond with Korean short rib pizza. It's a reflex order. Bad idea. Koreans have a knack for spicy food. I tend not to react well to spice. Nice choice. No, it's not really. What would you like to drink? I'm never prepared for this question. I don't know. Don't drink, and this is a very alcohol-friendly environment. I frantically look at the menu for something to drink, but I cannot find one. I really don't want to look like an idiot right now, since I spot a cabinet with and see my normal drink, chocolate milk. Good chocolate milk too. The hippie vegan moment has created at least one good thing. Extra natural products. Just the chocolate milk, I tell her. Sitting on their porch, looking at my chair and happily eating my pizza, topped with an enormous mass of unidentifiable but good mass of greens on a mix of tomato and hot sauce, a small amount of cheese, green onions, and a copious amount of meat. The chocolate milk is extra thick, and it feels good to be eating the food in the sun. It's a break from the normal cold spell we've been having. It's kind of like a break on the countryside, looking at all the friendly faces. Everyone looks about university age, all in suits and ties and hipster douche rags. A bold one at the front of the line asks, "What are they waiting for?" Record store day. They're waiting for exclusive vinyls and merchandise. I myself am after enamel pins and a Kermit the Frog green vinyl. Vinyls, the man says, as his friend, utterly unconcerned about the conversation, is more focused on his beer. I can see that this is going to take a while. Yes, like records, as in the archaic system of playing audio media, I tell him. This tech was big before his upbringing, and also big after his upbringing. He's an outsider to the culture, really. Cool. So what are you waiting in line for? Well, it's first come, first serve. Neat. I can sense a feeling of total disinterest as he goes back to drinking his beer with his buddy. I look around me and observe the people waiting in line, being unusually unsociable for one of these functions. One man had a military green uniform top with his gun holster sash on his chest. Outside, inside was a pistol on display. If it's real or fake, it was hard to tell since it's America. He takes a white package from a man who appeared to be from the less fortunate side of Detroit. This was, of course, after they discovered that they were in the same division in the U.S. military. The man with the green shirt throws it into the back of the white sedan. It's far from a luxury car. Its license plate reads The Who. Next to me appears to be a man from a more upper class background. Like everyone else, he wears a thick hoodie to keep him from the mild chill of the nighttime air. His car is parked behind the white sedan. It appears to be a black Ford Taurus. Black Taurus claims he goes from Detroit to Nashville every other week to visit his kids after he works his job at one of the Grand Detroit hospitals. It's crazy. When you drive down from Nashville to Detroit, it's crazy seeing all the bombed out abandoned buildings of Detroit turn into Nashville suburbs. Black Taurus says as I look at him blankly. Huh. I say in response automatically to Black Taurus. Beside Black Taurus is a man and his presumable wife, although Black Taurus and the couple never speak. They occasionally make eye contact. They sit in a position that obviously shows some romantic tie. Possibly the homeless war vet that had handed the military man. Had handed the military man. The homeless man sits next to me. Hey girl, I'm fundraising for war vets. A name tag and badge hangs from his neck. The homeless man hands holding two white packages. This is awkward since I am not a girl despite my long hair, and I do not have money. I also can't hear the homeless war vet through his thick Detroit lower class accent that a lot of people seem to have, but I don't know where it comes from or what it's a combination of. I sometimes think it may have some French origin, but it's really hard to tell. And he says to me, and I'm selling some homemade fresh salted peanuts. Peanuts, really? Quickly, I think of an excuse to make the awkward situation go away. The homeless war vet is full on over his shoulder, draping onto my boobless chest. I'm allergic to peanuts. It felt dirty and dishonest, but maybe the homeless war vet would back off, just walk away. But no, he persists. The voice doesn't even tip him off that I'm a man. The situation gets uncomfortable on several more layers. How about a donation? Oh, homeless war vet persists. Homeless war vet is determined to get money, but unfortunately, this puts me in more of an awkward situation, as I have to explain to homeless war vet how I have no money on me. I don't have spare change. I say to the homeless war vet, there's also dishonest as I always carry a quarter with me at all times in case I need to open the battery compartment of a camera. I use 36mm cameras and their battery compartments are opened with coins for some reason. I never really understood why. I guess it's secure. More likely you're carrying that than a screwdriver. Cameras these days, you get luxury just like clips. Anyways. Black Taurus looks over at me and homeless war vet in pity and slight amusement. I zone out as homeless war vet talks my ear off for what feels like another 10 minutes. arm still on Bristol's chest. Some drunk comes out of the Jolly Pumpkin. They look at the line and approach me. What are you waiting for in line? They appear to be college students from Wayne State, probably. Probably. I don't know, though. 3 men, 2 girls. The girls say, "It's been nice meeting you, but it's cold. We should go home." The oldest looking one of them ignores the girls. In the oldest drunken stupor, the man forgets they temporarily exist. "We're waiting for record store day," I say. "Oh," the drunkard says. The drunkards have no clue what I mean, despite being right across from the record store. "What's your favorite band?" I pause. He knows if I'm in front of a record store owned by a famous musician, there's a good chance I really like that musician, right? So I speak for the masses. "Jack White." "Oh, I know him. White Stripes. I like his song, 'Bag and a Biscuit,'" the drunkard says. The girl repeats themselves, and he ignores again. This man has tunnel hearing, I think to myself. Of course the drunkard knows who Jack White is. He's a Detroit folk hero. Everyone in Detroit probably knows who he is. I respond to the drunk. "Ball and a biscuit, you mean?" "Oh yeah. See, I'm trying to get my brother to make some makeout action." The drunk gestures towards one of the other college students. The girl getting more frustrated and repeat themselves for a third time. They are clearly not into this. However, I am. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for strange and nonsense things drunks say. "Well, good luck with everything," the drunk says before leaving. Sometime later that night, a black female of undeterminable age comes by and says something loudly. She's rapping? "They call themselves libertarians, but they sick and need a veterinarian. You know, if I was Italian dish, they'd call me Rosemarian. She tastes good, so they call her Cranberryan." And with that, she was gone without a trace. Black Taurus turns to me and says, "I want a 45 for that." She gets a record deal with Jack. Maybe I'll use her in a story later. "Hey, don't use Cranberryan. That's her word." Both Black Taurus and me laugh. A large woman came by. I braced myself for whatever weird question or story she was about to tell. "Hey, we have some extra pizza if you want some." I analyzed the situation. There's a relationship somehow between the woman and her, the girl I like. Perhaps I could get her to her through this woman. Furthermore, this would be the third time in 2 days that I would have had pizza. Yeah, that seems in line with my culture. "I would love some, thank you," I say cheerfully. The woman gave me a plate and napkins. I took a single piece of cheese pizza because I had Korean short rib and wanted something a little more vanilla. I cannot thank her enough for her unexpected kindness. It was good pizza, too. I talked to the woman a little more. Apparently, her husband was a disabled audiophile. An audiophile is someone who is obsessed with sound and music and just audio equipment in general. And apparently this man has probably a better sound system in his garage than most people have in their whole house. So he runs a record company and a record website, which I would plug here because she was real nice and they were all real nice, but I can't remember what it was. The woman's daughter would be holding their spot, as the woman and her husband could not physically do it. The woman's husband walked with a certain wobble and a cane. The woman's daughter must have been friends with the short girl, as the woman's daughter and her walked away. The man in the military jacket comes over with me, and his friend starts smoking and tells me about how much of a ride they had when the Who was still more of a thing, and how he couldn't get the Who license plate as someone else had it forever in the and he had other Who license plates. Apparently, he started with, I think, the Bellboy because he was working with Bell. But to be honest with you, his friend, I have no clue what he was actually saying, as I was really distracted as his friend kept blowing thick white smoke into my face from his friend who was smoking or vaping. The smoke itself smells minty, which for some reason I am ignorant to, so maybe he was vaping. I spend a lot of time contemplating how long it'll take for the smoke to blow over. The rest of the night after this, I spent explaining record day, store day to outsiders to the culture. In the morning, I wake up to my tent to be pleasantly surprised as I, in fact, have not been robbed, nor have I been murdered. The most impressive thing is that my pizza has not been squished by myself when I was sleeping. I'm also not hypothermic, as is the result of all my other camping trips. I open my tent and look outside. Most people are up. I see a black Taurus going towards an alley and ask where Black Taurus going towards. I see Black Taurus going towards an alley and ask where he's going. He leads me into a cafe where I order a vegan blueberry muffin and mocha. Now, here's the thing. I didn't realize it was a vegan muffin. I promptly relieve my overflowing bladder, and then I eat my muffin, because I hadn't gone to the bathroom in a day or two. Alright, it was a day, but it felt like a long time. The muffin was good. It has a gluten-free thing going on, which is a drawback, but not that big of one. The cafe is some form of renovated storage building, but who would guess? Open ceiling, refurbished fabric furniture. The coffee is extremely strong, which is to my liking. So, in fact, it's so strong it won awards in the past 3 years. Quite content with life and feeling a cold morning, I decided to play faces with Black Taurus and passerbys. Oh man, look at him, he's an overachiever, I say as a jogger walks further than the rest of the group and then comes back to complete the exercise. You just had to go the extra mile to show everyone up, Black Taurus responds. Look at me, I can run an extra meter or 10. But no more, Black Taurus says. I like him. He's got a sense of humor around him. The workers at Third Man Records put a sign showing that what they are selling, and I go back to look at it. There she is. I want the headphone pin and records. I say to her as coolly as possible, I'm so cool, I could be a pickle. I point at the picture of the pin. I look at her and realize that it's not a bunny, but instead it's a character from a Japanese style of animation called anime. It's from a movie that Disney published in the West called My Neighbor Totoro. I've never seen it, but the character is fairly famous. The character itself name is Totoro. I want the pin too, she says to me. My heart is pounding. To be honest, this is kind of scary how much her friends remind me of me and my friend. Except possibly with better chemistry. Me and my friend back home are also fond of the animation style. I'm particularly obsessive with my pin and record collection. Along any other things, one of them is more of a genius, they tend to have the most absurd conversations from what I could observe, which I should point out, I had overheard them talking about eye surgery among other odd and bizarre conversations. It's fairly cold in the morning, but then again, it could just be my body temperature was lower from camping. I go back and sit with Black Taurus in front of his propane heater. You know, my wife does hot yoga class? Really? I never understood the concept, nor do I think I would survive it. Yep, I don't either. But if you get 5 of these heater in the same room, you can get the room over to well over 1200 degrees. Sorry. Uh, that's a writing mistake on my part. That's supposed to be 112 degrees or so. Black tourist perhaps doesn't realize I'm Canadian, so I misinterpret this as absurd, thinking he means Celsius. That would be well over the boiling point of water in Celsius. How does anyone survive that? These suckers are powerful. 100 degrees, that's the water's boiling point, as I just said. But, which means if they can get a room over that in Celsius, that'd be absolutely insane. That's like an oven. I sit happily in front of it until I decide it's time to make contact with her again. I sit in just to learn a bit about her, just to figure out where to start. Behind me, I notice that Third Man Records staff is putting out Tim Hortons coffee, which feels like home. I overhear she's 17 years old, same age as me, so my attention becomes somewhat more justified and less creepy pedophile stalker. Some She comes from a different city. I don't know enough about Detroit nor American cities in the state to interpret the data. She lives in an apartment where her neighbor smokes weed. Genuinely curious, I ask, so what's it like living in an apartment like that? Well, it's good when you have asthma and heart palpitations, she says in her small, nerdy voice. It's absolutely adorable. Nice. I sit back in the conversation, just listen for odd bits of data to learn about the people. More importantly, to let her sweet voice ring in my ears a bit longer. More importantly, I feel my bird with a broken wings kicking in real hard at the tone of asthma and heart palpitations. I learn quickly that she's a junior. I can interpret this as most likely meaning grade 11 by school age, but I don't know. I'm Canadian. Canadian schools don't work like that, and I'm not very sure. 1 year less than me, I think. She's into cosplay, which is dressing up in impressive costumes of popular characters that, to put in layman's terms, which sometimes is the thing you can pull out of conversations that amaze you. I make a joke about feeling at home with the coffee, and I hear a barrage of Canadian jokes, which I quite often enjoy hearing Canadian stereotypes. They always get me to laugh. We promptly get slightly more spread out as the group enters the store. I stag my record, a poster, and a pin. 120 American. I leave as I don't really feel like staying for the main act and get far too excited to go play the record. I get in my car and go through the slums of Detroit past several hipster restaurants and scenes. Over the Ambassador Bridge when it hits me. I'm an idiot. I never caught her name.